More Paddy Jokes and Murphy's Comedy Club, episode 145. I am Rod Murphy, and this is Growing Up Poor in Irish Boston, a series of my 1950s era Irish Boston songs, history, jokes, and stories. And my motto, never let the truth interfere with a good story. All these jokes have been submitted to the NAACP, now the Anti-Defamation League, the Pleasing League Plump Society, the LGBTQMOUSE, and the AARP for vetting to ensure there was no hate speech or discriminatory words, and most importantly, to ensure that all the humor has been squeezed out, and also to ensure that no animal was injured or killed during the production of this podcast. So I promise, there were no animals killed or hurt, just a few entitled Karen's feelings. Paddy Murphy's brother-in-law, Dmitry Ivanov, is applying for a sales job. The sales manager asks him, "I noticed a 4-year gap in your resume. Could you explain that?" Dmitry says, "I went to Yale." "Impressive," says the sales manager. "You're hired." Dmitry then says, "Great. I really need this job." Okay, Oni Mulligan and Paddy Murphy are digging a ditch across from a brothel in Cork City. They see a rabbi go in. Paddy says, "Will you look at that? A holy man going into a whorehouse. That's awful." Then they see a Presbyterian minister going in. Oni says, "Even the prods are at it." Then they see Father O'Toole from St. Margaret's Church walking in. Murphy says, "Jesus, I guess the good father will be saying the rosary for the girls." In Rockland, Maine, Joe Michaud's wife was missing after a boating accident and presumed to have drowned. Joe was waiting for any news when Sergeant Paddy Murphy from the Rockland Police Department knocked on his door. Murphy told him, "We have some good news and some bad news. What do you want to hear first, Joe?" Michaud says, "Give me the bad news first." Sergeant Murphy says, "We found your wife's body in the harbor. We pulled her up and she had 3 5-pound lobsters attached to her body." Joe then replied, "What's the good news?" Murphy says, "We're going to pull her up again tomorrow in the morning." Mrs. Nora Murphy, with a baby, are patiently waiting for the doctor and the baby's first checkup. The doctor arrived, examined the baby, checked his weight, and looked a little concerned. He asked Nora whether the baby was breastfed or bottle-fed. "Breastfed," Nora replied. "Well then, undress to the waist," he said. Nora did so. Then the doctor squeezed Nora's nipples and went on to palpitate and rub her breasts in every direction as part of a very thorough examination. After he asked her to get dressed, he said, "No wonder the baby weighs so little. You have no milk." "I know, Mrs. Murphy," said. "I'm his grandmother, but I'm still glad I came." The Massachusetts Turnpike Authority found over 200 dead crows near Greater Boston recently. Pathologist Paddy Murphy examined the remains as there were fears of a bird flu outbreak, but found the cause to be vehicular impacts. By analyzing paint residues on the bodies, Paddy determined that 98% of the crows had been killed by impact with trucks, while only 2% were killed by cars. The T then hired ornithologist Dermot Monahan, Murphy's brother-in-law, to determine if there was a cause for the disproportionate percentages of trucks killed versus car kills. Monahan very quickly concluded the cause. He reported that when crows eat roadkill, they always have a lookout crow in a nearby tree to warn of impending danger. Monahan stated that all the Boston area lookout crows were able to say car, but none could say truck. What's the difference between a salty Irish wedding and a salty Irish funeral? One less drunk. Paddy Murphy walks into his local, orders a double bourbon neat, and downs it in a single gulp. He asks the bartender, "How big is a penguin?" The barman said, "Around 12 inches, 18 inches, something like that." He orders another double bourbon neat and gulps it down. "What's the biggest a penguin can ever be?" The bartender frowns. "Maybe 3 feet, maybe an inch or two more. Why?" Murphy orders a third double bourbon neat and gulps it down. Even quicker, he sighs, "I think I may have run over a nun." Paddy Murphy, a married man, was having an affair, God forgive him, with Philomena, an Italian woman. She was temporarily working in Cork City. One night, Philomena told Paddy that she was pregnant. Not wanting to ruin his marriage, he paid her a large sum of money so she could go back to Napoli and have the child. If she stayed in Italy to raise the child, Murphy would also provide child support until the child turned 18. She agreed, but asked, how would he know when the baby was born? To keep it discreet, he told Philomena to simply mail him a postcard and write spaghetti on the back. He would then arrange for the child support payments to begin. One day, about 8 months later, Murphy came home to Nora, his wife. "Honey," she said, "you received a very strange postcard today." "Oh, really?" says Murphy. "Let me see." The wife gave it to him, and he read the message. Philomena had written, "Spaghetti, spaghetti, spaghetti. 2 with meatballs, 1 without. Send extra sauce." Paddy Murphy's cousin, Finn O'Leary, goes into a pub in Cork City. He puts a little dog on the top of the bar and orders a Guinness. One of the pub's regulars, Narco Kerrigan, on the bar stool next to him, says, "Hey, your dog has no legs. What happened to him?" O'Leary replies, "A couple of years ago, I found him in the street. He had been run over by a bulldozer that crushed his legs. I brought him to a vet who amputated all 4 limbs. It saved his life, but it cost me a fortune. We have been inseparable ever since. I take him everywhere I go." Narco says, "That's wonderful. You were a real hero. Most people wouldn't have bothered. What's his name?" O'Leary says, "He doesn't have a name." Perplexed, Kerrigan replies, "He doesn't have a name? You had the dog for 2 years, you spent a fortune to save his life, and you are inseparable, yet you haven't bothered to name him? Why not?" O'Leary replies, "Why? Would he come if I called him?" Gardaí officer Paddy Murphy is tasked with telling Mrs. Phelan that her husband was run over by a bus in Cork City. He knocks on the Phelan's front door. Mrs. Phelan, about 35 and very attractive, answers the door. Murphy says, "Sorry, Mrs. Phelan, about your husband, Sean. It looks like he was run over by a bus." Mrs. Phelan responds, "Yes, I know it, but he makes up for it with his great personality." Paddy Murphy's aunt, Maeve, had brain cancer, was at her doctor's office. Dr. Kelly told her she could get a brain transplant, and he had 2 brains to choose from. Maeve asked, what was the price for a brain transplant? Dr. Kelly told her, "I have a psychiatrist's brain for $15,000, and I have a politician's brain for $30,000. Maeve asked why the politician's brain was so expensive. Dr. Kelly told her, "Because it's never been used." This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my YouTube and podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button. It does not cost you anything, and it helps me to grow my audience. Again, my thanks.